Lockwood Smith, you were here speaking at the Global Trade Conference this morning, run by the Farmers Journal and the IB. Just want to get your thoughts on Brexit, and what's the opportunity in Brexit? I suppose you were more positive about it rather than seeing the negative side of it. What can Ireland achieve out of it?
I think I should be clear, New Zealand's preferred position originally was that the UK stayed in a reformed EU, and when reforms that were needed to keep the UK really in didn't materialise, we always worried that the referendum might go the way it did. But you've got to be pragmatic, and I think there are wins to be had here. And the biggest win for this part of the world is, in my humble opinion, the UK being able to now take a place on the world stage arguing for the value of trade liberalisation at a moment in history when it's under threat. Mm-hmm. When you've got, even the EU's found pressure in moving forward with trade liberalisation work. You've had regional parliaments in Belgium voting against CETA, for example. The Singapore FTA is still hung up in the European court system, and so trade liberalisation is facing headwinds at the moment. As you heard today, John Clark felt that the WTO is not going to make much more progress on market access issues, still do important work on things like domestic support issues and making sure not trade distorting, those sort of things. Indeed, WTO still does some excellent work, but trade liberalisation at large is facing headwinds, and to bring a new competitive dynamic to the Northern Hemisphere with the UK leaving the EU and the customs union could, in the medium to longer term, have some real pluses. I mentioned New Zealand and Australia don't have a customs union, and that has been very important to success in our part of the world because we compete with each other. New Zealand did a free trade agreement with China. Australia's had to do something about that. Mm-hmm. They've done a free trade agreement with Japan. We're going to have to do something about that. Okay.
From I suppose, the trade liberalisation, UK leaving the European Union and setting out to try and find a new way in the global order, that presents opportunities for New Zealand. Do you see the UK as a potential market? Can you sell more dairy into the UK market from them leaving the EU, or more lamb, or
and risks for New Zealand.
Okay,
and risks for New Zealand. Goodness knows how all of this will pan out, and we hope, as you heard both Phil and John say today, we hope to be negotiating an FTA with the EU this year, and we hope the whole Brexit carry-on doesn't get in the way of that negotiation too much, and then we've got our future with the UK eventually to negotiate too, and who knows how that will end up. And so, but our approach is we want to see both the EU and the UK come out of this well, and Ireland too. And we recognise, I personally see the particular interest Ireland has, because you are more severely influenced by all of this than many of the other EU member states. And so for UK, EU and Ireland, I think there's even an opportunity in Ireland here to explore some of the final solutions between the UK and the EU. If they work for Ireland, they'd work for the whole of the EU.
Correct, yeah. Have you mentioned there, the eventual relationship when UK is gone between New Zealand as well? Have you begun negotiating? Have you spoke to the people in Westminster about, there's a potential, go back to, you said in 1973 when you left, or when UK joined it, posed a challenge. Is there a way to go back to that?
We don't look to go back to what was then, and we're not yet seeking to negotiate an FTA with the UK yet, because the UK cannot while it's still part of the EU, and it's important that we don't muddy that water. So what we are instead doing, we've announced we have developed a trade and economic dialogue with the UK where we can share our experiences with them. And I think they're finding that quite useful, because I guess New Zealand probably is one of the most open economies in the world, if not the most open. And we have almost no trade tariffs anywhere, certainly not in agriculture. And so I think, and also we've led so many major negotiations around the world, including starting TPP. As I said there, I personally started that whole thing, and I personally initiated the study with ASEAN between Australia and New Zealand that led to the free trade agreement. And so our experience in how we've thought about trade strategically, our experience with opening our markets, our experience with negotiating FTAs, I think is all useful to the UK. The EU's got plenty of experience. The EU, of course, already has good experience doing this sort of thing, but the UK hasn't, because they've been out of it for 40 years. And so we're just trying to be a useful friend at the moment, and our focus is with the EU at the moment on negotiating our FTA with the EU. But we do want to be ready when the UK is ready to negotiate FTAs. We want to be right there, at the.
Do you see potential in that market?
Oh, absolutely.
For your agriculture?
We just want a better trading relationship with the UK. It's an important market for us, and as is the EU. And there are some issues. There's, as someone mentioned today, we have a country-specific tariff quota for lamb or sheep meat, and how that's going to be worked out between the EU and the UK is really important. We have a real interest in that. If we don't follow that carefully, we might lose out of that.
Yeah.
We don't intend to lose out of that. So. We're following things very, very closely.
So it's safe to say you'll be keeping a very close eye on things. Great. Pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much, Sir Lockwood. Thank you.